Hi, my name is Holden Ford, and I am 18 years old. This is my 7th year in 4-H and my 7th presentation. My presentation is about my collection, the things I like, the things I collect, the things I restore. And this all started with treadle sewing machines. Let's see now, probably 3 or 4 years ago, I got my first treadle sewing machine. It was my grandma's. She got it in the 1970s, and had a little bit of damage, and a little more damage when she tried to fit in the trunk of her, 1970s car back then. And it sat in her garage down in Southern California, came up to Western Washington where I live now, and sat in storage for 20 years or something. So I got it, restored it. It actually was featured in another presentation I've done. So to start off with treadle sewing machines, this was my great-grandmother's sewing machine. My great-grandfather refinished it. They bought it used already from the church that my grandparents and my parents were married in. And my grandparents were members of that church, I think, until they moved up here. So a long time. So this has got a lot of history in the family, and I was lucky enough to be the member of the family who got to keep it. Then I started, after getting some of the usual treadle sewing machines, like here's another normal one that they circulate in and out of my collection a lot. I buy them probably a couple every month or so. Restore them and then resell. I don't make much, but it's enough to keep the collection going. This one I did some modification on. Actually, I can pull it out and show you real quick. The modification I did was, this was a gutted cabinet. I bought it in Portland, Oregon. Drove around Portland lost with a trailer, a car trailer, on my little half-ton pickup. It was quite the adventure, but I bought this as a gutted cabinet, a cabinet that didn't have the head. I took this piece, the original piece, out, made it the exact same outside dimensions and pre-drilled screw holes for all the brackets and everything, and put this Wilcox & Gibbs head in it. 1933 is the year of the head, so it's period. And these had a long run, so needles are readily available. And, so hopefully this combination will keep this treadle and this head going for another 100 years before somebody else does another restoration or creative project with it. I made this handy rack just for treadle sewing machines. So now all of my machines can be kept out of the middle of the room like these things are. This is another Wilcox & Gibbs. This is an 1883, all original. It might have original finish, but I know it has original stain on like the undersides and stuff. Original pinstriping and paint, and it's got the head and everything. It has the coffin top to it also, because the head doesn't stow away in that one, and that's just in the corner here. And then I wanted to go even older. So over there is a 1870s, 1880s. It could be 1860s. It's a Civil War, late Civil War era treadle sewing machine. Probably after the Civil War. This is a Wheeler & Wilson number 3, and to explain to you what the importance of number 3 is, they didn't make a lot of them because it was so early, and I have had a couple number 9s and 9Ds, I think they are, and those are that era, like a normal treadle sewing machine era. So number 3 is a pretty early machine. So the next thing that got into my collection, when I first bought that first got the first treadle sewing machine done, I gave it back to my grandma. I started searching Craigslist again and got a phonograph, and I have been hooked on phonographs ever since. This is my most current project. This is a this has been one of the biggest projects I've ever done, but I've been keeping busy on it. This is a Victor talking machine, a pretty standard phonograph. I got two, and somebody out there used this old cabinet to put their modern turntable and receiver in, like what I got going on here. And so rather than just taking things out in a non-permanent way, they used a jigsaw and cut this whole centerpiece and the back out, because apparently it wouldn't fit, the receiver or something wouldn't fit. So it was pretty badly broken, but all the finish was pretty good. And then the same person who sold me that, or actually they gave me it was really nice. He gave me that phonograph. They gave me another phonograph that was complete, fully, it had all brackets and all little things, screws and stuff, and it was put together, but it was delaminating. So each of these little doors, all the laminate was coming off, missing on some of them, and to do restoration on both would just be kind of insane. So although I don't believe in parting out machines, that one I decided to part out. So I, for the first time in my life, took a sledgehammer to it. Actually, it was I used a piece of wood to keep it from damaging the finish. But I used the sledgehammer behind the wood to pull the entire machine, the cabinet apart. So this is off of the other machine. This whole back piece is off the other machine. And here we have the other machine's tone arm, or whatever you call it, on this era, and this, which just screws right in. And all the brackets, the horn is off the other machine, and I'm slowly assembling it. I rebuilt part of the motor yesterday, pulled both springs out, cleaned them, greased them, oiled them, put them back in, and I'm reassembling the motor board right now. And it'll go back in here and hopefully play. And then I've gotten into phonographs quite a bit. There's an Edison disc phonograph. I've never gotten it working. That has been a good year in the making of just in the corner there. That's pretty. That's better. In the corner here is an Edison, the floor model in the corner, and I have gotten into a lot more of the regular discs, because you can play this regular 78 record on basically any phonograph. Play it on an old phonograph like this with a heavy tone arm, and you'll gouge it up a bit, but it'll play it on anything. You can't play this on an Edison, and you can't play an Edison record on anything else. So that's why Edisons have not been my cup of tea. But I like them for the history. So I've got an Edison cylinder machine here, another Edison cylinder machine with the horn here, and I've got a dictaphone here, which is basically the same as Edison. This one's an electric, and it's got the governor just like a regular spring wound one. It's a pretty cool machine. I got this one to work. I was able to talk into the horn and get it to work. Here we've got another Edison. We call it an Ediphone because this is a dictaphone that Edison made. You pull this out, push this button in. There's wires running inside there. You talk into it, and as it's running probably 160 RPM, and it's recording on the record. It's a cylinder record. And then I started getting in, you know, all the collectors, they start small and then work their way bigger. I got that, which is kind of the centerpiece of my phonograph collection at the moment. This is you call it a Bombay cabinet because it's curved. This is actually curved wood. So back 100 years ago, they had to, when they were assembling the plywood, assemble it at an angle, let the glue dry, and then pull it back apart, and the wood kept its shape. So this is a pretty high-end machine, and I haven't gotten around to restoring it yet, but it's a really cool machine that was definitely worth driving to Ording to get. So with phonographs came other interests. I've got three main interests: typewriters, and phonographs and treadle sewing machines. I got my first typewriter, which is this Royal 10 right here. Okay, don't quote me on that. It's probably a Royal 5, but I can't remember. I should know that. Okay, this is a Royal 5. That's a Royal 10. And I've used it ever since. My grandma gave it to me. And I've been getting into other typewriters. So, like all collectors, it start small and get bigger. I have this Smith Premier. Unrestored. I haven't done anything to it. I think the history sometimes is worth not messing around with it. So, like for instance, I've got an Underwood 3 up there in absolute tip-top shape. You don't find them like that anymore, and I haven't even replaced the ribbon because the history that's in that thing, it deserves to go untouched. This is a very old machine, probably 1905 or something. It's an upstrike, meaning that it... Sorry. There we go. Meaning that you type without seeing anything. I think they call it a blind writer. Smith Premier number 2. You typed on the bottom. It's I think type and peek, how they called it. You go like this, see if what you wrote actually worked, and then keep typing like that, and then return the carriage with this lever on the opposite side of normal typewriters. This really put typewriters on the market. This was one of the first really successful typewriters, and to see them with the case and stuff like that is kind of rare. Then after typewriters, I started getting into just little things. I still am into the main three: typewriters, phonographs, treadle sewing machines. But when I find something cool, I get it. There is a 1949 AMI that I worked a whole bunch on and then lost interest because I'm not good at electrical stuff. And then here in the corner, I drove to Sacramento. Some of my really good friends gave me this jukebox in the corner here, a 1946 Rockola 1422. And it works and everything. It needs a tune-up, and it's got some fuse that keeps blowing, and I haven't been able to fix it, and I'm not sure why. They weren't able to fix it either. But that's a project for another day. I got into antique guns. This is a reproduction of a flintlock, like kind of what you'd see these in the Civil War and stuff like that. And I haven't gotten this working. I traded it for another percussion revolver firearm handgun. And I've got another flintlock right here. This one is my favorite gun to shoot. It's pretty accurate considering it's just got steel sights. And a while back I had an original 1700s flintlock pistol. So there were guns. I like World War II stuff. I've got some kind of communications machine. I think it had something to do with aviation, flying planes around in World War II. It's dated, has an inspection date of 1945 on it, January of 1945, which means it probably was built sometime before that, and it's completely battery powered. It's kind of cool. That was a what you'd call a you'd call it, I'm trying to remember this. So this would be a restoration when you're refinishing basically making it look like new. That is, I can't remember the name. I'll come back to it. It's a common thing. When you just leave it as is, clean it up so it's still, people would still let it be in their homes. It's keeping it out there. It's keeping a history alive, but you're not like repainting and everything. That's kind of ruining some of the history. Something I got here is a 1700s grandfather clock, standing about 8.5 feet tall. It's all oak, all hand carved. A beautiful clock. It's missing the movement, but this is another one of the, preservation is the word I was looking for. It's a preservation. I'm not going to refinish it. I'm not going to do anything. I might put movement in it, but it's got finish on it that is likely over 100 years old. It could be original finish from, 300 years ago, or 250 years ago, something like that. So I'm leaving this as is. And then, one last thing, I got into antique cars. My grandpa started it out by giving me his 1956 Chevy pickup truck, which I rebuilt the engine, got it just running as a stock truck with stock rims. I switched out bias plate tires for radials just for the safety of me and the truck and others on the street. Just better grip, traction on the road. And then I bought a 1926 Ford Model T in December, which I've been taking apart. There's a splash apron that I just sanded and got some of it sandblasted. Here are the front fenders, and I didn't want, and okay, here are the running boards. I didn't want them to develop surface rust before I paint them, so I've left them in here. And obviously, if I was planning to leave them as is, I wouldn't be touching them with my fingers, but I'm going to clean them before I paint them. That car I just took out for its first time on pavement in probably 7 years today. Got it running, drove it down our 2-mile dirt road, and took it on the highway just for a little bit, completely illegally. Wink, wink. It runs like a top. I'm really excited about that. I'm going to get a body on it, a 4-door body, and drive it around the country. Anyway, that is my collection. Thank you for watching, and do we ask questions? Okay, the answer to that was you do not ask questions. Just so all the listeners out there know what my audience has said. Thank you for watching.